So I wanted to get on and talk today about the two different brain surgeries that I've had. I know that I've mentioned them before in previous videos, but I wanted to give a little bit more details about how those went for me. So I had two different brain surgeries at the beginning of August of 2020. The first one was to take a biopsy of my tumor to see what it was. And the second one was to reroute my spinal fluid because where the tumor is in the middle of my brain, it was blocking my spinal fluid and they needed to get it to where it could flow again. So, like I said, at the beginning of August, me, my mom, and my husband drove to Rochester to the Mayo Clinic to have my surgeries done. And on the way there, I Googled the name of the brain surgeon that they had given me. And it turns out that he's one of like the top neurosurgeons in the country. And so on our way out there, I'm like, oh, I'm getting one of the top doctors. He's going to save my life. Like, I was like super excited about this guy. And I still am. He's a great guy. But yeah, so he did the portion of my surgery to biopsy my tumor. And I'm really grateful that he is one of the best neurosurgeons in the country because where my tumor is, a lot of neurosurgeons wouldn't even touch it to do a biopsy. And having not had a biopsy, I've seen other videos of people who wouldn't have biopsies and things. My treatment plans would have been pretty limited. And so I'm incredibly grateful that I got to have the surgeon that I did and that he was able to biopsy the tumor and figure out what type of cancer I have, even though that's a horrible thing to hear, to find out the type of cancer that I have, the H3K 27M one, but I'm glad that he was able to figure it out. The second surgery I had was to reroute the spinal fluid, and that was actually done by a pediatric neurosurgeon. Now, I respect that a lot because basically these midline gliomas are found a lot in children. And so the fact that my surgeon, even though he was one of the top surgeons in the country, was like, you know what, I probably could do this surgery, but this pediatric surgeon has done it way more times than I have, and he knows what he's doing. So I'm going to bring him in and have him do that part. I really respect that decision. I mean, to not let your pride get in the way and think, oh, I can do it, but to have somebody who knows what they're doing do it. I really respected that. So, like I said, me, my mom, and my husband were in Rochester, and we were staying in a hotel, and we were there for, I want to say 2 nights before I actually had my surgery because I had to go in and have appointments, and, they would talk to me about what they're going to do and stuff like that. So, the actual morning of my surgery, in the world of COVID, you can only have one person with you. So my mom came with me. My husband dropped us off. And that was really hard. Going in for brain surgery is a big deal. Like, they sometimes make a joke, well, it's not rocket science. It's not brain surgery. This actually was brain surgery. So that morning was really hard because it was really scary because there's a lot of thoughts about what could go wrong. And so when I said goodbye to my husband when he dropped us off, I was really scared that it was the last time I was going to get to say anything to him. Thank God it wasn't. I'm still here. I'm still talking to him. But yeah, so when I went in, I went in and they had me put on my gown and all that stuff. And my anesthesiologist came in, and she was really the person that hung out with me and my mom for quite a while before I was able to get in and actually start surgery. And she was super nice. And actually, ironically, a few weeks later during my treatment, we went to this art exhibit in Rochester that was about, it was called something about heroes. And it was about medical workers in the area. And one of the paintings was of my anesthesiologist. And I was like super excited. I was just like, hey, my anesthesiologist, she was so cool. Like, she really deserves to have a painting done of her. And yeah, but so she was a really cool lady, and she really talked to me for a while and answered all of my questions and made me feel really comfortable. So I really appreciated that. Now I hate being put under anesthesia. I've only had 2 surgeries in my life previous to this, and that was a tonsillectomy when I was 18, and then a few days later I had to have had to have them redo it because I had hemorrhaged and was like bleeding a lot, and they had to go back in and seal it back up. And after the second surgery I had with my tonsillectomy, when I finally woke up, I was on oxygen, and I was like, what is on my face? And the nurse told me that I wasn't breathing properly and that I was taking too long to wake up, so they had to put me on oxygen, and they were like worried that I wasn't going to wake up. That was 10 years ago, and that has stuck with me for 10 years. Isn't it kind of funny how something like that can stick with you that long? So for the last 10 years, I've been terrified of the idea of ever having surgery again, because I was like, last time they told me that I didn't want to wake up, so next time I'm probably not going to wake up. And so I really was talking to my anesthesiologist this time about that, and she was like, no, she's like, it doesn't really work that way. You're going to be okay. Like, she was really reassuring. So yeah, so they went in, and like I said, they did the surgeries, and they were able to get the biopsy, and they were able to reroute my spinal fluid. And now something happened when I was in surgery, and you can think what you want. A few years ago, I lost my grandmother, and not long before that, I had lost my uncle. Now, when I was under anesthesia and I was in the middle of my brain surgery, my 5-hour surgery, they were there. I heard their voices. I knew their voices. I was pretty close to both of them, especially close to my grandmother, and I know them and I know their voices, and they were there, and they were arguing with one another about who was going to guide the surgeon next. And if you ever knew them, you knew that them arguing with one another is absolutely accurate to who they were. And it's just so funny that, I mean, it was them. There is no question in my mind that it was them, that they were there. And they were guiding the surgeons and making sure that I was okay. And when I woke up from surgery, that was the first thing that I said, I guess. My mom said that I broke down crying, and I told her that my grandma and that her brother were with me. And yeah, like I said, think what you want, but I know that they were there. And that actually provides me a lot of comfort, because I know that they're somewhere and that they're watching out for me, and that someday I will get to see them again, because they're still there and they're still making an impact on our lives. And that was huge for me, and it has continued to be huge for me ever since. I knew that they were there, and that was beautiful. So yeah, like I said, I was under anesthesia for about 5 hours is how long my surgery took. I guess I don't know how long it took me to wake up afterwards, but my mom and my husband both said that was some of the most terrifying 5 hours of their lives, just waiting to hear anything from the doctors about how it went. And luckily everything went as well as it could. And my mom was able to come in, and because they had to take me to the ICU right after surgery. That's just protocol, I guess. And my mom was able to come in, and so as I was waking up, like I said, I was talking to her about what I had experienced. And shortly after, the pediatric neurosurgeon came in the room to explain to us exactly how it went and what they did. And they actually had a video of my actual brain surgery. And so he pulls it up on this screen. And I'm still a little loopy on the anesthesia at this point. And he's explaining to me and my mom exactly what they did. And luckily my mom was there because she's, coherent and listening. And I'm just like looking at this video like, whoa, that's my brain. And one of the first things I thought was, wow, our brains actually are gray. That's crazy. So your brain really is gray. I saw a video of my own, so it really is gray and it's crazy looking. But yeah, so he showed us the video of exactly what they did, exactly how they punctured the hole in the bottom of my brain for my spinal fluid to go through and all that stuff. And it was really kind of overwhelming to see and hear all of everything. And the guy was just looking at me in a funny way. It's so funny. I can tell how people are looking at me. The guy was looking at me in a funny way. I could tell that he could tell that I was still a bit loopy. So he's like trying to explain it to me as best as he can. And I'm just like, Mom, what did he say? What did he say? What are we talking about? So yeah, like I said, I had to spend the night in the ICU after my surgery. And they would only let my mom stay with me during normal visiting hours. So I think she had to leave at like 6 p.m., which I was kind of scared about her leaving, but it really ended up being okay because after something like brain surgery, you are so tired. I pretty much just slept. As soon as she left, I was just out. And yeah, the nurse that I had, it's another kind of funny story. She was also super great. My nurse in the ICU was super friendly, super nice. And at one point, they had to do a shift change. And I swear it was the middle of the night because it was dark. And they had to do a shift change in the middle of the night. And I woke up and I could hear her talking to the other nurse. And one of the things I heard her say was, she's a very light sleeper. And I'm thinking, I am, and you woke me up. So, because every time she would come in the room and do anything, I was like, oh, what's going on? And I guess that's kind of unusual for people. She was like, wow, you really are a light sleeper. You wake up a lot. And I'm like, well, someone's coming in the room. I gotta protect myself at all times. So, yeah, so that was kind of funny. But one of the worst parts of being in the ICU for me was, and I've talked about it a lot, I have a lot of anxiety. And obviously I have a lot of anxiety around what was going on. And one of the symptoms that I have with my anxiety, and it's a very common one for people, I've done my research, is the frequent feeling of needing to urinate. It has something to do with the fight or flight system in our bodies, wanting to like expel any extra weight so we can run faster or something is what they think. So yeah, I felt like I had to urinate a lot. And after your surgery, when you're in the ICU, you have to use a bedpan, which is really uncomfortable. It is really awkward. Like they just slide it under you and you're just like laying in bed, going to the bathroom. It feels so weird. So for me, that was the worst part of being in the ICU. The rest of it was fine. Like I said, the nurse was great. They were all super helpful, super friendly. But it was having to use that dang bedpan over and over again that was really uncomfortable for me. But yeah, so I was only in the ICU overnight one night. It is amazing to me what they can do nowadays and how quickly they can have you out the door. 2 major brain surgeries. I was in the hospital one night and then I got to go home. And so, I was so excited to get out of there and to get to see my husband and to get to, drive home. So, the next day we were back on the road heading back home and I pretty much slept the entire drive back home that time. Because again, I had just had brain surgery. I was pretty exhausted. So my mom and my husband took turns driving and they got me home. So the lasting effects that I've had for my surgery is scars on my scalp. So like I said, I got my sweet radiation haircut, and so from that you can actually, I don't know if you can see that, but my scar right there, that was from one of them. And then I have another one up in here where the hair is starting to grow back a little bit more on this one because I didn't have radiation in that area. And I can never remember which one was which. I'm like, was this the one that I had the biopsy and that was the spinal fluid? And my husband's always like, no, it's the opposite. I can't remember which one it was. I still can't. One of them. So yeah, my brain surgeries were obviously very scary, but they really went as well as they could have, I guess, with the exception of them being able to remove my tumor, but we know that that's not an option. So, yeah, I can't recommend the Mayo Clinic enough. If you have anything going on in your life, go there, because they really have. I've been joking that the Mayo Clinic has all the A students there, who went to medical school and were top of their class. That's where they work now. So, I mean, like I said, it went as well as it could. And they did take a long time to heal, my scars. I had to put lotion on them and things. And the scabs were there for quite a few months afterwards. But that's small potatoes compared to what it could have been. And so I'm really grateful that I went where I did and that they were able to do what they were able to do. And I'm so grateful that I got to hear my grandma and my uncle. That was the hugest thing for me, to know that they were there for me and they were looking out for me, and that was amazing. So yeah, that's my brain surgery story. I can't, like I said, it went pretty good, so I don't really have that much else to say. So I hope everybody has a good day, and I'll be making more videos. So see you later.